Yeah, I had 57 doors. And you know what? That number used to mean something to me. Used to feel like a badge of honor, proof that I had made it in real estate, or that I'd figured it out, that I had officially walked away from the grind, that I had stepped into financial freedom and that I'd built something that would last. But numbers on paper don't always tell the full story. Because when the dust settles, or when the market does its thing, or when the wrong people make the wrong decisions, you're left with 4 units bringing in rent. Not 4 buildings, 4 units out of 57. All right, if you've never sat at a kitchen table and stared at your bank account with a knot in your stomach, wondering how you're going to cover payroll, mortgage payments, utilities, insurance, taxes, all while explaining to your family that everything is fine, trust me, you don't want to. And this isn't one of those bullshit guru stories. It's not the kind of lesson that they're going to post on Instagram. It started 2 years ago with one building, a 6 unit property in a neighborhood that I knew pretty well. Acquisition made sense. The numbers were clean. The underwriting was good. It was one of those properties that you pick it up and think, okay, this is going to hum along just fine. It wasn't ridiculous, just 6 units. And it did for a while. But then two tenants that our property manager didn't vet started creating problems. Not just little things. We're talking police calls, fights with neighbors, damage to the units, punching my maintenance guy in the face, just straight up toxicity. And I could see the other tenants starting to get fed up. You can feel it when you walk through the building, or you see how people greet you or don't greet you, or how the common areas start to look like trash outside the dumpsters or outside the fence line. The tension in the air. One by one, the good tenants left. 4 out of 6. They just packed up. Some of them didn't even drop off the keys, they just left them on the damn kitchen table and disappeared. So now here I am sitting on a building that's 2/3 empty. The ones that were still there are the problem. I'm losing money by the day. And worse, guys, the reputation of the building started to shift. Word started to spread. People talk. Suddenly, I couldn't rent the units. Nobody wants to live next door to an idiot. I'm trying to fix this, and I'm trying to evict, and I'm trying to fill units. My portfolio started to crack somewhere else. At that time, I wasn't managing all my properties myself. I had hired a property management company, one I trusted, one I thought understood my mission, what my expectations were, how high my standards were. And what I didn't know, and I didn't find out until way too late, was that they had made a decision that would ripple through my entire company. They decided to raise rents 15%. Not on one building, not because of upgrades, not with consultation, not because we were flipping boards. No, 15% across the board. Without my knowledge, without a call, without a strategy session, just boom, 15% hike. Letters went out to the tenants. Hey, your rent's going up. No explanation, no added value, no prep. Let me ask you, I know how I would feel. How would you feel if your mortgage or your rent jumped 15% without any warning? No new amenities, no improved services, nothing really to justify at all. I know I'd probably walk out the door, right? Yeah, you'd leave, right? Well, guess what? So did they. 4 out of 6. At renewal time, tenant after tenant packed up and left. Some of them didn't even wait. I watched the occupancy plummet like a rock. Units that had been stable for years were now empty. And now, it's not just a few, it's 66% of them. In fact, by the time I caught what was happening, 90% of my tenants had left. It's not a typo. 66% in the 6 unit, 90% overall. Gone. I had gone from managing a well oiled machine to holding a portfolio of ghost buildings. And I didn't find out through the manager. I found out because the rent that was supposed to be deposited into my bank account didn't show up. Imagine you go onto the system and you open your rent roll and you're expecting deposits and you see blank line after blank line, vacant, vacant, vacant. No rent, no notes, just silence. It's like someone pulled the plug on my entire business. And the thing that pissed me off was I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't over leveraged. I hadn't bought bad properties. I hadn't ignored maintenance. I hadn't been negligent. I just trusted the wrong bastard. And I had given away too much control. So at this point, I still have to pay mortgages. I still have to pay taxes, insurance, utilities, contractors on the turnovers. None of that stops when the rent does. But reserves, guess what? They don't last forever. We started juggling, picking and choosing what to pay first. I cut everything I could. I paused renovations, started to spread them out. I put flipping projects on hold. I pulled from savings. Then I pulled from my personal credit. And then I had to hit my thrift savings plan. And while I was still trying to coach other investors, still doing speaking engagements, still mentoring clients, I was privately on the edge of collapse. I remember sitting at my desk one night, paper spread everywhere, spreadsheets open, calculator blinking. I looked at my wife She didn't say anything at all. She didn't have to. She's been with me for 35 years. Very rarely had she seen it, but she knew the look. She just said, "How bad is it?" It's very difficult for me to realize that I failed, and I told her the truth. I said, "Well, we're going to have to call Z. We're going to have to sell some units." I didn't want to. I'd fought for every one of those properties. I'd rehabbed them, I'd stabilized them, I watched them become income machines, but now they're dead weight. Didn't have a choice. So, what did I do? I sold two 6-unit buildings. Gone. Then I sold an 8-unit that I'd poured myself entirely into, one I thought I'd pass down to my son someday. Gone. You know what? That's what kept us afloat. That's what stopped the hemorrhaging. That's what allowed me to reset. But it hurt. It hurt bad. You don't realize how emotionally tied you are to your portfolio until you start breaking it apart, especially when you're the one who took them from trash to places that people would want to live. I had built it like a legacy, but it wasn't bulletproof, and worse, it wasn't resilient. So I had a choice: fade out quietly and bankrupt it, or rebuild it differently. Well, guess what? I don't like to fail, so I chose to rebuild. First thing I did was shut down my relationship with that guy, the property manager, cold. No more conversations, just done. Then, realizing what had happened to me and knowing how bad it hurt, I launched my own property management company, because if this can happen to me, someone who teaches others, someone who's done deals in multiple states, who's built multiple businesses, what's going to happen to the first time investor? What's going to happen to the new landlord who doesn't know the questions to ask, who doesn't read the fine print, who doesn't realize how much power they've handed over to someone else? So I decided to make my company different. Second Street Property Management has lower fees, real transparency, and it's built by an investor for an investor. No more surprises, no more 15% rent hikes with no warning, no more, "Hey, we thought this was best, so we moved on it and then told you later" excuse. Everything is deliberate now. It's measured, it's intentional, it's codified, it's a standard operating procedure. And I carry the lessons that I learned with everything that I teach. And here's what I want you to take away from my story. First, do not fall in love with your door count. It's absolutely meaningless. I had 57 doors and almost went broke. You know what matters? Occupancy, net income, and cash flow. Second, never let anyone else's poor judgment ruin your good name. Your tenants see your manager as you. There is no separation for them. If they screw up, it's your reputation on the line. Third, make cash reserves a non-negotiable. If you can't hold every property through at least 6 months of vacancy and major repair hits, you're exposed. Full stop, regroup, and then attack again. Fourth, if something feels off, it probably is. Investigate it. Don't wait until it's an emergency. Check your management contracts, ask for monthly reports, or pull them yourself if you use like Appfolio or Buildium. Talk to your tenants once in a while. They're probably going to tell you what's really happening. And lastly, always remember, you can bounce back. You can lose doors. You can lose money. Hell, you can lose sleep, but stay in the fight. Keep learning. Make the hard calls, and you can build it again. And that's what I've done. And that's what I teach now. I focus on vets and police officers because I know how we're wired. We love structure. We live by SOPs. We know how to execute when things get weird. We also tend to trust the chain of command, and sometimes we trust it too much, even when those guys don't deserve it. You've got to treat your investments like an operation, like a mission. You've got to have clarity, objectives, and full accountability. So here's my call to action. If you're in the game now, whether you got 1 door or no doors or 50 doors, I want you to take 20 minutes this week and review everything. I want you to look at your management agreement. I want you to look at your lease expirations, your cash reserves, your rent rolls, everything. Tonight, I'm holding a class with Military to Millionaire on SOPs and research. And because I don't want you learning this lesson the way that I did, with a fire you have to crawl out of, I want you to do that. So if you're thinking about getting into real estate, but you don't want to make the rookie mistake, let's talk. Go to book a free, no obligation strategy session with me. We'll figure out where you are, where you want to go, and how to build the right plan for you to get there without losing your ass. If I gave you something to think about today, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. It helps more veterans and cops find this channel, find the truth, and start building real estate the right way. I made all the mistakes so that you don't have to get burned to learn, but if you do, at least make sure it was worth the lesson. And as always, until the next video, aim high.